Welcome to Evangelicals, where we discuss the good, the bad, and the ugly of the American Evangelical Church, deconstruction, faith, and God's love through it all. Join us for these episodes live on our Evangelicals YouTube page on Wednesdays at 9 p.m. Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 o'clock Pacific. Let's journey together.
Yes, that is right. Welcome to Season 2 of Evangelicals. I am Jeremy.
I'm April.
And I'm Paul.
And we did it.
Season 2 was what we needed.
But we shouldn't celebrate it. We should act like, well, of course, we've been here.
Yeah.
Of course, we do it right all the time.
We're seasoned now. So.
Yeah, we're well-seasoned podcasters. So, man, excited to get Season 2 going. I've missed you guys for the last couple of weeks. It has been lonely on Wednesday nights. I just sit here in my office and stare at my computer screen, and there's no one else there. So it makes me sad. Yeah, exactly.
And I put up the promo video on TikTok today, and I put it up on private. So I got it available to people 8 minutes ago. So they got an 8-minute warning that the live stream was coming.
Nice.
Perfect. At least they can go back and rewatch it.
That's really
Absolutely.
Good. Oh man. Well, lots to talk about tonight.
I
mean, there's definitely been some things going on in the current events world for sure.
Yeah.
And so there is no doubt that we're going to have plenty of good discussion. And hopefully those of you who are watching, please feel free to join in the chat. We want to hear from you.
They are.
And already hopping in and
fast and furious.
Take a moment to share it. I know you guys can share that out. So share it on your social media platforms. And, if you're watching this later and it's not live, share it and go subscribe. You can subscribe to the podcast on every major podcasting platform. Just go to pod.co/evangelicalish and you can hit the subscribe button. It'll give you a drop down option and you can go to your favorite one and then subscribe to the podcast there, or you can just listen right on pod.co, which is great too. And so lots of good options for you to listen back, audio only. But we always love it when you join us live on Wednesday night. So Season 2 underway, housekeeping out of the way, intro nailed. What's our first topic tonight?
Let's do it. Well, yesterday, I think we all sighed kind of a collective sigh of relief as a country as we had a guilty verdict in Minneapolis for the Derek Chauvin trial and the death, shall we say, murder of George Floyd. And so all three counts, Derek Chauvin was found guilty in a very quick decision by all 12 of the jurors in the trial. And again, it was kind of like, whew, thank gosh, because we were poised to see probably some real ugliness in our country had it come back with any other verdict. But it's a rare time that we see a police officer held accountable. Is this justice? Is this a new day in systemic racism, perhaps in our public safety? Jeremy, April, how are you guys feeling coming off 3 guilty verdicts against Derek Chauvin?
Do you want to go?
Well, I mean, I'm good either way, but I will, sure. I guess coming right out of the gate, I'm hesitant to use the word justice. I think George Floyd got justice and his family got justice, but I don't think the system is just yet, if that makes sense. So I think that while this is a step in the right direction, and this is what I shared on TikTok yesterday, while I believe that this is a step in the right direction, we must remember that this is simply a step. And that it's got to be all gas, no brakes, continue to push towards equality and justice for all. So while Derek Chauvin was guilty, and he absolutely murdered George Floyd, and that was a resounding decision by the jury. That is a good thing. That is a good step, but it is a step. And so the momentum coming out of that must be carried through, because just like I said yesterday, while there is justice for George Floyd, there are still question marks for Daunte Wright. And just as George Floyd's verdict was being read, there was a young woman gunned down by police officers in Ohio.
Yeah,
so
Makia Bryant.
The problem with the system is not solved. So there is justice for George Floyd, but there is not yet a just system.
Yeah. I like what Shannon said in the chat, not real justice, because real justice would mean that we would have a system that would have prevented George Floyd from being murdered in the first place, and that this is more accountability. And I've seen several people of color say that as well. I think for me, so I didn't really say anything on the Chauvin trial, except on Twitter. I'll say some things. But I was just anxiously kind of waiting before saying one thing or the other. I didn't want to get my hopes up. Like, to me, it seemed like obviously he's going to be convicted, but I know we've been here before also.
Yeah. I didn't think it was obvious at all.
I didn't think it was obvious at all. And as a matter of fact, when you talk about a jury of 12 that was selected by the prosecution and the defense collectively, it just took one person to hang that jury. But when they came back after 10 hours, I got pretty giddy because I thought, man, there's no way that first off, they're not going to come back that quick if they're hung. They're not going to come back that quick if they're hung. And there was nothing there were only two outcomes, in my opinion, was either A, hung jury, or B, a guilty verdict. But the thing that I thought that they would do, I thought that they would only, the place where I was surprised is I thought that they would only find him guilty of manslaughter. I was afraid that they would let him off on second and third degree murder. They did not. They found him guilty on all three counts, which I think was huge. So when they came back in 10 hours, that's my surprise at that point was he was guilty on all three counts, which was a good
and
surprise.
April, I'm sorry to jump in and interrupt you, April, but I'm a little bit older. I remember the Rodney King trial. Our eyes saw what we saw, and still all of them were let go and walk free. And I think anybody of an age to remember that moment was still holding our collective breath, saying, police, they're never held accountable by the system for this.
Yeah, I think the disheartening part of it all is that it was a question, that I don't see how a sane person with any type of decency can watch the video of George Floyd being murdered by Chauvin and not be okay. Obviously, that cop murdered him, is in the wrong. Like, it's just such evil, and it was not one of those split-second decision type of situations. Like, he had 9 minutes to be thinking about what he was doing and continued to do it. And then the police officers that are just standing around doing nothing. But the bravery of, the thing that changed this case was the bravery of that girl that filmed it. Because if it wasn't filmed, Chauvin would still be a cop. He'd be walking free, doing this to more people.
That was my, first was just relief. Okay, we're not going to burn down the country now. And I'm happy about that. But then, what changed? Are we really going to change from here is the question. I would say, are we going to repent, which literally means change your mind and change your direction. And are Christians going to be a part of that change? But my thought and the TikTok video I did today is, what if there was no video? Would George Floyd's life have mattered if there was no video? And how many other Black men are dead today without justice because they had no video of what happened? And can we change that?
Racism is not any worse in America than it was several years ago. It's the same racism.
Right.
Police brutality is the same police brutality. The only difference is that everybody's carrying one of these.
If there hadn't been video and there hadn't been the protest of the summer, would police officers, because what was different about this was police officers testifying against Derek Chauvin. That's a rare thing. We don't see that. And I think the video and the protest did that. But we can't forget we had a president and a whole bunch of Republican leaders who were against the protesting and who cleared them out so that the president could stand with holding an upside down Bible in front of a church that he's never attended And so a lot of things have to change still on the backside of this verdict.
Jill Ann West says, she chimes in and says it still didn't matter to some folks, even with video, and they swear they're not racist.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I think that's been the hardest. No, it's not surprising, and it's definitely not the hardest part. But the disheartening part of it all is I've seen so many white conservative Christians, quote unquote good old boys out there, just posting the most disgusting things about this whole trial, about George Floyd, just no empathy whatsoever. If they're even saying anything, I personally went out to look to see what conservative Christians were posting. People in my circles, Christian leaders. To be fair, Franklin Graham,
our favorite.
We love talking about Franklin Graham. He actually made a post last night. It wasn't anything over the top, but just said, justice was done. George Floyd's life mattered. Put a verse. So that was good that he said that. It doesn't take away from the fact that I think he does so much harm. But the comments, the whatever brief moment of encouragement I had that of conservative Franklin Graham would at least acknowledge that justice was done, or accountability. The comments, 40-some thousand comments, and most of them were so disgusting, just racist and evil. And these are coming from Christians that support Franklin Graham. I don't know how to reconcile with that. These are the same people that supposedly worship the same Jesus I do, but where's the human decency?
Is Franklin Graham, just quick side question, is Franklin Graham coming out of the Trump fog and kind of waking up a little bit? Because this is 3 things in a row where he has used common sense and goodness. And it's a little bit weird. I kind of want to call BS a little bit. You know what I'm saying? But he comes out, for the vaccine. He makes a really
pray for Mike Pence.
Yeah.
That's not even that big of a deal.
Yeah.
Pray for
It is for Trumpers. I mean,
do you think has he taken a ding to his fundraising? Maybe I think
was his fundraisers, his givers were woke and he didn't even know it. That's that's really funny.
The thing is, and you said it, Jeremy, that racism in America is not more now; it's the same. And I would say racism in the church, in the American Christian church, is not more. It's the same. It's what has been unearthed in this season is we are racist at our core. We were staunchly in favor of slavery in America, we being the Christian church. And yes, there were segments of the Christian church that stood against it and did amazing things. And so I don't discount that. But as a whole, we used the Bible to justify slavery. We used the Bible to justify being anti-civil rights movement in the 60s. And this has been our history. This is who we are. And again, until we repent of it, admit that it's who we are, and start to do something to change, it will continue to be our history.
Yeah.
The comments that I saw of, if these men wouldn't resist, this wouldn't happen to them. That's the one big justification I see out there that really makes me very angry.
Or that somehow because he had any type of drug in his symptom, that he was deserving of it. No, that's not a death sentence. You don't get to be executioner out there and making these decisions. It's just the lack of just empathy too. Regardless of even the situation, a person's life was there and was taken away.
Yeah.
And as a Christian, as someone who claims to love Jesus and love people, to love your neighbor, that should matter.
Yeah. Well, I mean, how many churches on Sunday are talking about that, they care about the Imago Dei, those created in the image of God. And then they talk about, I saw a comment, talk about your Facebook friends. I saw a comment today from a former police officer that I was Facebook friends with, and he said, He said, "Did you notice how Derek Chauvin just stood up and put his hands behind his back? I wonder if George Floyd had done that, we wouldn't be in this situation."
Oh my gosh.
Wow.
This makes me want to like punch people.
Yeah.
But how can you in one sense talk about loving people who are created in the image of God, which includes George Floyd, and then on the other hand talk about he kind of got what he got? Those things don't go together. I'm sorry.
Yeah. And when you see Lieutenant Karan Nazario in Virginia,
Lord,
terrified for his life. This is, we love the military. We're right wingers. We worship the military. Unless it's a black military guy resisting the police officer.
Where's the outrage? Hold on. Conservatives, come here. Let's speak for a spell. Where's your outrage now? Where's your anger now? If it's about respecting the flag and respecting the uniform and the men and women who served and those who have sacrificed for our country, where's your outrage now? Where's it at now? But it doesn't fit the narrative all of a sudden.
Right.
And so conveniently, we're not as worried about those who are serving and those who are in the military. And the man is in uniform with the flag on his shoulder.
Yeah.
And has been stopped for not
nothing.
having a license plate on his freaking car.
Which he did. That's the
That's
the craziest thing of the whole deal. Well, his tent was a little bit dark and we couldn't see it. And so he got pepperball gunned in the face. And it's a wonder that he didn't end up like Dante Wright, who that police officer said she accidentally grabbed her Glock instead of her taser.
Yeah. Whoops.
I mean,
April, you have my permission to punch people. Go ahead.
Well, I can't even cuss them out, so I'm definitely not going to punch them. But, gosh, I don't know this kind of is a good segue because we actually had an email sidebar. You can email us at evangelicalish@gmail.com if you have topic ideas or if you just want to reach out to us. We can respond there. We can't respond to messages on our Evangelicalish TikTok page. It's a whole thing. We'd have to get like our own number, which we don't have. So if you want, or you can leave a comment. We can respond to comments or email us at our Gmail. But anyway, Jennifer sent us an email with a topic idea that's kind of goes along with this. She said, "I would like to see you do a show on how to treat the evangelical Christians who might still be in your life." She just said she finds herself so angry with these people that she feels like she hates them. She considers herself a liberal progressive and for social justice always, except for the bigoted, judgy Christians. She's having a hard time finding room in her heart for them and their beliefs, but she doesn't want to become what she hates in them and is just looking for some guidance on how to treat these people. Like, how do we treat these Christians that are posting pro-police stuff on a day that, Derek Chauvin gets convicted, or worse, are saying awful things about George Floyd, about Black Lives Matter, about just racist things in general? How do we respond? Like, how do we treat them as Christians? We're called to love them too.
Yeah.
Like, have you guys found anything that helps you as you are surrounded by people that don't think like this?
I have found that, number one, I don't go specifically seeking them out first off, just to get my blood boiling and to start a fight. You know what I mean? Because those comments are always out there. They're always out there. And those kind of posts and whatever. But I have found more success in either A, if it's people I know, trying to have personal dialogue with them, or B, if it's somebody I don't know, trying to message them and just hear their perspective. Why do you think that? There's just really some depth to being trauma informed, and people have their beliefs for a reason. Now, whether we like those reasons or not, that's where they come from. So trying to understand, again, that people are, number one, created in the image of God. We are told to love them. I think that's a really good point, April. But that also that that they are just as valuable of love as I am to God. And trying to understand why they believe the things that they believe, and then having those conversations slowly. Instead of, the keyboard warrior, let's duke it out right here in front of God and everybody. Because nobody ever wins and nobody ever changes. Everybody just gets deeper entrenched in their values. And those things are hard, and interacting that way with people is hard, and you get angry and you get upset. But I think walking in patience and in grace is really important, and to know that you're not going to be able to, change everybody, but that there will be people in your path that you'll be able to connect with and, hopefully impact as you build with that person.
Have you had success with that, Jeremy? Have you had anybody say, okay,
Yes.
I'll consider what you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Well,
that's good to know.
From that process, though, never online firing
Right.
comments back and forth, because it doesn't ever work that way. Nobody ever changes that way. They just get deeper and deeper in their own belief, because it's a war and it's in public. And so nobody is ever going to back down. Nobody wins. Everybody loses. I mean, it just doesn't work very well that way. And so I have found some success. I found it really hard to hate people you sit kneecap to kneecap with over a cup of coffee or over a meal. I find it hard to hate people. That doesn't mean that I don't hate their views.
Right.
And that doesn't mean that I don't think that some of their ideas are racist or misogynist or, whatever the case is. That doesn't mean that. And that doesn't mean that I'm going to pull punches either. Yeah. But that means that the way we have the conversation matters. It's not that the conversation changes. It's not that the points change. It's not that I think that your views are any better, or I'm going to be less direct towards your views. It's just the way we're talking is different. And that matters. Yeah. And yes, I have had some times in building relationships like that with people that their views and their hearts have changed.
Yeah. I mean, I've found people that are willing to lean in and hear and be open to change, some success with that. But for the most part, the people I know that are deeply into that right-wing Christianity, I've found very little moments where they're willing to have a discussion. And this is one thing I've thought a lot about, because the criticism of, Paul, you're too critical. You're not bringing unity to the church. Unity has been a weapon or honor been used a lot. And so I think for me, it's like, I don't have hatred for anybody in my heart, but the spirit that's over the church. And so I looked a lot at like, okay, Jesus, how did you deal with this? And he said, hey, brood of vipers, dirty on the inside, clean on the outside. Your dad is the devil. You're talking about not pulling punches and not having unifying discussions. And I don't think he was necessarily hating Caiaphas or Saul of Tarsus or any other, religious person. Sorry, my dog is joining in as always. He was speaking to the spirit of that religious system that was putting people in bondage and was saying, guys, this is not okay. And if you're adhering to this, you're a part of something that is not from heaven. And so I have found more often than not that I have to build boundaries with people and say, hey, we're just not going to have discussion. When we're sitting knee to knee, we're not going to discuss this stuff because we haven't been able to have a fruitful conversation and it's hurting our relationship. And I think there is a time to say, I can't be quiet about what I have to speak about. And so if that really impedes our ability to have relationship, then either we're going to have to build a boundary around those topics with each other, or the relationship may thin out a little bit. And so that's kind of been my experience with it all.
I think it also depends. It depends on the person and how deep they are in it, because there's a difference between, I would say, just your kind of in the middle conservative Republican Christian who's maybe not super political, just kind of always votes red just because that's just what they do. And then there's your like Q Trump worshipers on this side, like they know that they're right and no one's going to tell them
Greg Locke.
anything. Yeah, Greg Locke.
Although I wish I had a dime for everybody that tells me I'm independent, and then I go to their Facebook page and go, wow, that's a really interesting independent stance.
No, you are not.
For me, I have a hard time with when it's something, like the Chauvin thing, and people are saying things that are so blatantly racist that I get angry, and it's hard for me to have a civil conversation with someone when what they're saying is like, it's not a difference of opinion. It's like a difference of whether or not this person's life matters and these group of people matter. And I know that they would swear that they're not racist. But I just personally have a hard time like interacting and even wanting that person to be in my life. And I know that that's probably not the most Christian thing, but like, I don't respond well. It's not good for my well-being to like be around people like that. I don't know if that makes sense. But at the same time, I know that these people are not surrounding themselves with people that think differently than them. The echo chamber is strong. They watch a certain news channel. They go to churches that reinforce these beliefs. They're surrounded a community that reinforces these beliefs. But then I feel this pressure of like, well, I might be the only person that could speak to them and maybe change their mind. And it's this fine line of like, do I go through this emotional labor, which is way worse for people of color? So, it's the bare minimum I can do. Or do I, for my well-being and peace, just leave?
And it may be a me issue, but I just haven't been able to have success in those discussions. And so I'm really trying to say, I have 24 hours in a day. There are people that I'm getting to impact that are saying, oh, I have permission to not be a right-wing Christian and I can still love God and God will still love me. And that's where I'm going to put my energy, because I just haven't found, people that are, saying you're manipulated by the mainstream media. I'm pretty much like, okay, our conversation's done now because we have no factual basis upon which we can agree in a discussion.
I think I've found more success in making sure that when I start those conversations, to not automatically bring my agenda to the table. In other words, when they say crazy things like, well, they stole that election from Trump, or whatever. I'm not going to immediately come back with the 15 facts and the 20,000 articles and the time after time after time that Trump's own, Supreme Court that he's appointed 3 justices on have just thrown case after case out. That's the natural instinct, right? That's the human response of like, you sound stupid. Let me tell you why. But so often, I feel like this is what God does for us. There are so many times when people come into situations feeling combative because they feel like they're going to have to defend and to fight and to claw for whatever they're saying or whatever they're believing or the direction that they're going in. And if you diffuse that from the start and you say, and instead of going, well, that's really dumb and here's why, instead meeting that with, well, what makes you feel that way? Mm-hmm. And then walking it back. And what we're eventually getting to is, how are you wired? Not how did we become QAnon conspiracy theorists who believe that the election was stolen and Trump's going to be inaugurated again on whatever the date is now. Right. But what is it in you systemically that tells you that these things are right? And those are the things I want to address. I don't want to address the symptoms. I want to fix the problem. And there is a major difference, because if I take care of the problem, the symptoms will take care of themselves. And so listening to people well, walking back and understanding from a very beginning state of why do you believe this and where is this coming from, helps us begin to address. And then what I can do from a pastorate role or a friend role or whatever hat I'm wearing is I can then begin to say, well, I used to feel that way, or I didn't really see it that way when I was growing up, and here's why. And then the conversation is not defensive. It's not your current political views versus my current political views in 2021. It's who are we as people and how did we get here and what are the things internally that got us to this point. So I think that there's a philosophy in going down that path. Now, Paul, I will say this. I 1,000% agree that there are just times when you get to a point with somebody and you're like, we're either going to have to put a wall up on it because they won't even allow themselves to walk back.
Right.
They won't allow that vulnerability.
Most of the people I've had those conversations with will not be honest with where that's coming from.
Right.
And that's when we have no footing to stand together.
And I'm going to love you passionately and like Jesus, but I'm going to love you from over here.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Because it's better for both of us at that point. If there's not going to be constructive conversation where we're learning from each other, where we're growing from each other, where we're challenging each other, then it's not really something where we need to be sitting down and trying to create this. It's just fake at that point. So, that would be my challenge. And sorry, that's a little bit preachy, but that's just kind of something I'm passionate about.
I do know for me, because I was looking back in my life. Most of you guys know, I mean, all of us were very conservative at one point. I was like deep into conservative Christianity, like the poster child for it. And, I was looking back to try to figure out times where maybe people had got through to me in different moments. And I remember I worked at a gym, Lifetime Fitness. I folded the towels, if y'all have ever been there.
Nice.
And a guy that I worked with who's Black, we would have these conversations about racism in the church and like all this stuff. And I was clearly like an all lives matter person at the time. And he would just ask me questions and he poked holes in my arguments, but it wasn't like him doing it. It was like me realizing that I had holes in my arguments by answering his questions. Like he would be like, well, explain that to me. Like, why do you think that? And where's that coming from? Like, can you explain what you mean by this? And it came from a genuine of like, he was trying to understand me, but it really made me realize, I remember a few times being like, you know what? I don't think what I'm saying makes a lot of sense. And I like got frustrated about it because like, I knew that I was wrong, but I wasn't going to admit it. And it took me years still, even after that, to finally come around to it. But it like, for me, it was a very slow, it wasn't like one argument changed my mind. It was like a slow time of like different conversations with different people and talking to people and being honest with myself that, maybe my views are not all right.
Yeah.
And maybe that is somewhat of a Holy Spirit process as well. It may take some scales falling from your eyes perhaps, but I think when I keep walking it back to where the genesis of that is with people, I kind of keep coming back to what we're teaching in our Western Christianity. And even people that aren't Christian in the church, I think are influenced sort of by our puritanical roots, our manifest destiny as Americans, our hell theology of that we've made into love the sinner, hate the sin, which is not a verse in the Bible at all. And Jesus didn't live that way at all. And the thing that I'm struggling with in it, and because I do love all of those people, but I'm seeing so many people destroyed by it, and so many families completely turned upside down by it, that I feel like for a long time I tempered myself, and I'm going to bring people along slowly, and finally I had to say, forget that nonsense. And I would use some other word if I was being my normal self. We got to stop this. There is something at the core that has rotted in our Western Christianity and our Western theology that has to be fixed, because Jesus came to set people free from bondage, not create a new one for another era. And so I guess, so Jeremy, I totally get what you're saying, and you're just a much more wonderful pastor than me. And I mean that honestly, I really do. I'm not being facetious at all there. And maybe I'm just more, my wife says, you're like this, long bearded prophet yelling out in the desert somewhere sometimes. And maybe that's true, that I'm saying, guys, this has to change at its core, so we stop teaching people that God wants them to believe and be this way.
I think what's interesting, Paul, is no, I'm not, and here's why.
You are. You have an amazing part.
Well, but here's what I'm saying. I believe that people are more apt to don't believe like you to listen to you in a wider forum, say like on a TikTok or something like that, because the way you deliver that information is a lot more methodical and thought through, and definitely a lot softer. I mean, there's no secret. I come across probably pretty hot and fast, you know, and that's always been my style. And so I think that both of us have places in our relationships where we're pastoring people. I think we both have places where, you know, we've got the kind of more in your face or like, listen, I'm not going to bend on this. And then we've also got the more methodical, thought out stuff. And I think God created us different in that way for a reason. And that's an incredibly beautiful thing. So,
well, I think each different way will reach different people.
Exactly.
Too. There's a place for both.
One thing I do want to tell, I can't remember what the name of the lady is that wrote the email.
Jennifer.
Yeah, Jennifer. It's okay to build boundaries even with family. You know, if the family can't respect your belief system and who you are, then you get to say like, okay, guys, then we can't have this conversation. And if you're still not willing to respect those boundaries, I may have to pull back even from family relationships, because your well-being matters. Your mental health and spiritual health matters just as much. You don't have to subjugate yourself to family to try to make it work. I mean, we all do that to some degree to each other, but I've seen a lot where a lot of people have had to say, hey, I've just had to boundary this with family. And I remind people that there was even a day where Jesus looked at the, you know, Mary, the Virgin Mary, the wonderful Mary, and said, that's not my mom. And those guys are not my family. My brothers are not my family. The people who believe in me are my family. And so I'm not saying cut off your family, but I'm saying you do get to build boundaries around some of this stuff if you just can't bridge those gaps.
That's true. There's some really great conversation going on in the chat about buffaloes, by the way. Yes, this is a buffalo and that is a buffalo. And I love what the buffalo stands for.
For the podcast people, you need to tell them it's on your hat and you got a buffalo picture in your office.
Yes. Yeah. Oh, that's right. Yeah. I got to think about that. Yes.
So
for those of you who are listening later on, audio only, I have a buffalo hat with the state of Oklahoma in it. I designed this one and love it. And then I have a buffalo right behind me in my office here. And I love what the buffalo stands for. And I love how Oklahoma it is. And there's several people on here like, it's definitely an Oklahoma thing. And it is for sure that. But man, there's a lot of good culture behind that. Anyway, sorry. I just noticed a ton of comments.
Does the wind come sweeping down the plain in Oklahoma?
The wind comes beating you to death down the plain in Oklahoma. Listen, it's Nader season's cuddling weather out here. Okay, so we're just we're just getting ready to just sit out on the back porch and watch the Naders come through, and it's gonna be a good time every spring. So
I do like what. I'm sorry, April. Brendan says, back on the topic, let's not forget people can change. Most here were once conservatives, and I think the three of us would agree with that as well. So he said, I think best to look out for those who are starting to question their beliefs. Yeah, I call those people the Nicodemuses that will come in the middle of the night and say, I don't want anybody to know I'm talking to you, but maybe I'm ready to hear something different.
Right. And I also think it's important too that when people do change, that we give them like a graceful place to land, like for a soft landing, that you're like, yes, you can come over here, like, and not be judgy and condemning of like where they came from.
We have cookies.
So can we say to Franklin Graham and Pat Robertson, come on in, brother?
Oh, how have we not talked about woke Pat Robertson? Okay. Insane.
Yeah. I used to work at the 700 Club.
Yes.
Sidebar.
Come on.
Hold on. I don't want to leave this. I've been holding on to this comment to read because the image is just too good not to share. But back to the different types of pastors y'all are. Clay Clay wrote, I pictured Pastor Paul as cranky Luke in Star Wars Episode 8, old bearded guy yelling at an empty island.
That's probably accurate.
Why the heck not? Yes, absolutely.
Now, Paul, I do have a question for you tonight, man. You pulled a couple of wordy dirt punches tonight. I've been having to click the explicit button.
A wordy dirt.
Yeah,
punch?
dirty word just
Oh,
superimposed.
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I had questions too.
Wordy
I didn't know
dirts.
what that meant.
Yeah, sorry. Anyway, but I've been clicking the explicit button for us every week, and now we're gonna have a clean episode. Cool. So
Don't say it. We haven't got to the comments yet. That's usually when you let
that's
them
true. That's true. Yeah.
I'm trying to be good. I dropped a couple of F-bombs in a TikTok this week, so I
Nice.
figured maybe I need to try to pull it back a little bit.
Awesome. Well, what do you guys think? We should run to a quick mid-roll and come back on the other side?
Sure, do it.
Beautiful. Although I did want to hear about Pat Robertson.
Oh,
today.
yeah. You were going to talk about Pat Robertson.
Yeah, real quick,
Oh.
April.
Oh no, I just worked there. So
I just worked there.
I have stories. There's like all these behind the scenes stories of he's like super old. Like we thought he was not gonna make it when I worked there like 6 years ago, and he's still just the Energizer Bunny.
He looks
Is he
so
going.
feeble.
How old is he? Is he 90?
He's at least 90.
I think
I'm-
Google will answer that question, won't it?
Yeah.
Man.
I had to work the call center when I worked there. So they do these telethons for the 700 Club to raise money. And it was required that all the producers had to sign up for like hour slots, like 3 different times. And so the only time that was available for me, like this is when I first started working, I had to work on set. Like they had off-screen like phone areas you could work. And then they had the on-set ones where like they would go to you to camera and you'd be on the phone, like and that was the only availability. So I had to sign up. And, it was awful. They cut to me right, and I didn't realize it, but I could just like sense the red light camera like being on me, and it was right when this guy was cussing me out on the phone. So I have a picture of me on the 700 Club with like this like really concerned look on my face because I was just being cussed out by this guy who pretended to be a homeless person that wanted to give their money and wanted to know where to send it. And he's like, God told me to do it. Do you think God will bless me if I do it? And I was like, I mean, why don't I just let me send somewhere some stuff for you to just look at it. Like, you don't have to send me the money. He's like, but do you think God will bless me if I do it? And I was like, I mean, if you really believe like God wants you to do that, I mean, I'm not going to tell you not to, but like, I don't want, like, it was so uncomfortable in general. And then I was just like, just give me your address and I'll send you some stuff. And he's like, okay. It's 1, 2, 3, 4. Go F yourself, like mother. Like, he didn't say F though, and I was just like, oh. And then he just started berating me of like, how dare you would take money from a homeless person? And then I just felt so bad because I was like, how would I take money from a homeless person? This is terrible. I didn't want to be there. The whole thing was like awful. I'm like, I remember going home and just like crying. It's like, where am I working right now? Like, I have this script. I got to try to get money out of people, and I don't know. It just felt super weird. Anyway, that was the one time I was on air answering calls, got cussed out.
Nice.
What a time. Pat Robertson, 91, by the way.
91. I got to tell you, he's sharp for 91, still doing TV. I'm impressed.
Actually, I might say he's
a real
sharper
idiot.
he might be sharper than ever because he went all woke on us suddenly.
Yeah.
It's like he forgot he was brainwashed.
Yeah, but the radical right is like, oh, he's losing it. Pat's losing it.
True.
He doesn't even believe the election was rigged.
I saw a deal the other day where it was like Pat Robertson is wandering through a desolate world that has been, incinerated by the zombie apocalypse, or something, and he survives the zombies, and he comes upon what appears to be another life form, and he walks up, and out of the shadows comes Betty White, and she looks at him and goes, "We knew it would always be this way, didn't we?"
Oh, I love Betty White.
I do too.
She's amazing.
Listen,
I mean, Prince Philip lived to 99, and I don't know how old Elizabeth is now, but she's still kicking and doing her thing. So, sometimes people have amazing stuff, and wasn't that a heart-tugging picture of her by herself at the memorial for Philip? But
she kept it together surprisingly well, a lot better than I would have.
You got to imagine Charles thought he would be on the throne by now, don't you?
I would imagine he's checking his watch. He's like, man, we're running out of time. My mom's gonna outlive me.
Very well good.
So,
all right. Sorry, I didn't mean to take us off track.
All right. Well, let's run to a quick break. On the other side will be some more Evangelicalish, so don't go anywhere. Are you loving Evangelicalish? Follow us to catch all the latest content and encouragement. You can check us out on TikTok by following @Evangelicalish or subscribe on YouTube by searching Evangelicalish. That's Evangelical with an ISH. And don't forget to catch our live streams each and every single Wednesday night on YouTube at 9 Eastern, 8 Central, and 6 Pacific. And now, back to the Evangelicalish podcast. Welcome back into Evangelical-ish, and glad you guys are tuned in with us. It is time for my favorite part of the week, and glad you guys are with us for Season 2, Episode 1, and exciting time to be alive, no doubt. So, off into Season 2, carrying over our favorite segment, Crazy Comments of the Week coming in, and so going to be a good one. We've had a couple of weeks to build up some comments, so I'm sure we've got some doozies. There's no doubt about it. So, Paul, what do you got?
So mine came from one of my favorite trolls who has commented at least 300 times on my page.
Wow.
And
Awesome.
he came with this one. He says, how about you getting booted from your pastor position? Didn't think I knew about that, did you, Paul? You're just in it for the money. So the beautiful thing of this is, first off, like, there's no cruel like Christian cruel, I always say. So this guy was bringing it. I didn't get booted from my pastor position. That's not true. And I'm not sure how he thought he knew about that. And if I'm in this for the money, can we make money doing this? If I'm in it for the money, somebody tell me where that money is, because I sure would like to be getting it right now. But
Oh my gosh.
yes, that's my troll, who I think we found out he may have multiple accounts that he's using to come troll my page from several different accounts. So I have TikTok doing some checkup on that.
Oh my goodness.
Amazing.
That's insane. You were in it for the shadow ban.
I am in it for the shadow ban. But if you guys are making money, let me know how that happens, because I'm in it for the money if I can get it.
Real quick, some people in the comments are saying they don't know what happened with Pat Robertson being woke. So maybe people listening don't know either. So just to clarify, he went on the 700 Club and basically, after the Dante Wright thing with the taser and the gun mix-up, held up a taser and a gun and was basically like, how do you get these two confused? Police have a problem and we need to fix it. Was kind of the gist. Only he was more mumbly and a little more like, how do you do this?
Pat Robertson. What was that?
It was like,
But he always kind of talked like that, didn't he?
Yeah.
Yeah, I feel like he's getting like a little more hop, like a little more wobbly with his voice.
Yeah, he looks pretty. He looks pretty fragile these days for sure.
Can you believe that guy ran for president and actually won the Iowa primary one time?
Yeah. Well, he was, sharper, I guess, back then, but not as woke. Not as woke.
Not as woke. And he also knows the difference between a taser and a firearm. So there you go.
He does.
That's
he
good.
does do that. It was actually really comical seeing, I can't remember the other lady's name that is his co-host, but they're like, oh yeah, that's much heavier. And then, oh yeah.
Yeah.
And they're just like handing it back and forth. I was like, what is this? But anyway.
Have you seen the other guys? Like, I'm just thinking of like a scene like, hey, have you done your first desk pop? Like they're like shooting the ceiling in the police office there.
Oh, Beach Squad, who's my husband, Beecher, said he wants an episode where April's Pat Robertson talks with Jeremy's Kenneth Copeland.
God.
Kenneth Copeland would blow woke Pat Robertson away.
I'm
completely.
glad.
And actually could probably knock him over.
I'm glad we
'cause he's
finished that statement because that could have gotten really weird.
Dirty, dirty,
Hey,
dirty.
you're not wanting to put the explicit button on this one. Come
We
on.
were so close. We're so close.
It's an innuendo, man. People are going to have to draw their own conclusions. So,
You may have to rewind on that one to find it out.
yeah. Oh, no. Yeah. Yeah. I could just see Kenneth Copeland, like from the one where he was talking about the long tube filled with demons or whatever that was, like flying commercial. He's like holding up a gun. It's just a long tube filled with demons.
April, you have a comment this week.
I have a
Joe.
comment.
Don't
this
put
week.
this
Oh,
back on
yes,
the
do it.
rails. What are you doing, Paul?
Put this
Try to
back on
keep the
rails.
show moving with
Yeah.
8 minutes to
Yes.
go.
Come on. We're so close to not having to put explicit on this week.
You get-
Miracle. Okay. My comment comes from, I made a church. Would you guys let me share my hate comment, please?
Yes, by all means. By all
Okay.
means.
This was on my megachurch video where I made just a megachurch video. I don't know if y'all saw it, but what it's like going to a megachurch. It's just like a stupid spoof video, and people got really mad about it. And this guy commented on my reply to that video over it being mad, and he said, first of all, I just have to say that his username is super duper straight. So he's not just straight,
Oh.
and he's not just
Super-duper.
super straight. He is super duper straight.
Yeah, okay.
Doth protest too much.
Yeah,
perhaps.
yeah. I was like, usually.
So he comments, "You're the reason no one finds women funny. Literally no one."
Wow.
No. Hang on. Let's put 2 and 2 together and make 4 real quick.
Do it.
His username is super duper straight.
Super,
But super duper straight.
Yeah, the R is not there.
Yeah. But then he's complaining about how he finds women.
Doesn't find women funny.
Yeah, gross.
But not just him. Literally no one finds women funny because of me. I'm the reason.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not Sherlock Holmes, but
Yeah.
maybe. It's a trap.
He might be wrestling something right here. He might be wrestling with some thoughts.
Didn't have the heart to be like, I find me funny, and I'm at least someone. So wrong.
April, a joy. Your page is on fire right now. By the way, you are rocking the videos and the views, and yeah,
Well, I'm nervous.
you
I
are
might
funny
be
and
shadow-
on fire right now.
I'm nervous I might be shadow banned because I got my Tupac video that I worked so hard on got taken down for bullying. So whatever that means. So anyway, Jeremy.
You were bullying a nice Christian woman out there.
I guess I was bullying the newsboys. So, I don't know.
Take
Jeremy,
that,
what's
Michael
your-
Tate.
Wait, sorry, I don't mean to. Did they take the video and it's gone and
It's
gone
gone.
forever?
Yeah.
It's gone. You can't watch it. It got. I appealed it, and it. They still didn't put it up. And it's a parody. It's just a parody song. And
Wow.
I don't know how they there's some videos on TikTok that live forever that are awful. And then my stupid Tupac's Not Dead video song is like, you're bullying people.
Yeah, it was really good. As a matter of fact, I downloaded it and clipped part of it for a video this week, and then I went back to because somebody was like, "Oh man, where's the original in this?" And so I went to go get the link to send them or to share it to them, and I was like, I can't find it anywhere, and that's when I text you, and I was like, did they pull your video? And I guess you hadn't even seen at that point that
I didn't even know that they had taken it down. But I'm gonna try to re-upload it. I'm gonna I'm gonna take the original girl out because I'm wondering if they thought I was bullying her, even though I didn't say anything about her. Like, bullying just sounds so hardcore. I was just like, hey, this girl did this, so I did this. But whatever. So I'm gonna take her out and see if it will stay up. So anyway, Jeremy, what's your hate comment of the week?
Yes. So hate comment of the week comes from user number 59381060, who says, "You shouldn't be a pastor. if you're just trying to tell people what they want to hear, tell the truth. It's glorifying Satan, not God.
Oh.
Yeah. So, which was in response.
What was that video on?
Yeah.
What was that comment on?
So you would think that that was the Lil Nas X video, right?
It wasn't.
It was not. It was about Hamilton and the really trashy version of Jesus Hamilton. That's the part that makes it so funny. It was like, if that was on the Lil Nas X video, like, okay, you're stupid, but like, okay, you know, like I see what you're trying to say or whatever. This right here was because she was mad that I was making fun of really bad copycat Hamilton.
Oh, that was so cheesy though. When the woman comes out and she's like, "And I'm the one who birthed him."
And I'm the mama that birthed him.
It's like, Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
Yeah. But it's like that one soprano lady that's been in the choir for like 38 years. Jesus Christ of Nazareth.
Who sings louder than everyone else?
Yes.
You only hear her
Yes.
faint choir behind her.
And she's the one that always like hits that like on the end of every hymn, just that piercing, just at the end. Yeah, that one.
So cheesy.
Yeah.
God.
So anyway, I thought that was really good, and there was an entire production, and I shared probably some of the lesser cringy parts. So that was.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
I don't understand. Like, I mean, my whole life I've seen Christians in churches and youth groups, especially, like just take popular secular songs and make them Christian. And they're always just so cheesy. It's like, just enjoy the secular song. Like, and I actually don't even like the term secular because I feel like God can be found in all art. Like, it doesn't have to be Christian or secular.
Or just make good art. Here's the thing. Just make good art. And if that means, I kind of love Lecrae's take on this. You know, he's like, I'm not a Christian hip hop artist. I'm a hip hop artist that's Christian, right? So it informs my perspective. It informs my worldview. Therefore, there are going to be things that come out that are going to be clearly based on my worldview. But I'm an artist, and I am creating good art that is informed by my perspective. And I feel like the church needs to grasp that. I feel like the church needs to understand that. And, you know, I mean, that's what I kind of love about the current worship movement. And I'll be perfectly honest, like as a worship pastor, the one thing that I love about the current worship movement is that the music has kind of come into its own, like the stuff that you're getting from a Bethel or a Hillsong or Hillsong Young and Free. Like they're getting their own sound. Like they're not trying to copycat the culture like we saw late 90s, early 2000s. Like worship music sounds like worship music. And that's good because it's its own genre and it's its own thing, right? Like I think that's fantastic. So
Except so much of worship music now sounds just like every other word. I mean,
I understand that, but so does pop music.
Worship genre like all sounds the same. Yeah, I guess.
But so does pop music. I mean, you know, whatever's hip for that time. So does hip hop. You know, you listen to stuff for a while, and there's a style that overtakes it, driven by a few headline people. Like in every style of music. I mean, think about bro country, right? Like, I mean, it's you know, there's tons of artists that are like, you know, doing the same thing. So that happens in every genre. So that's not a critique that's specific to worship. But at least worship is its own thing now. And that we're making art to that. Now you don't have to like that art, right? You don't have to like country art. You don't have to like, you know, whatever. But
make it at a high level.
But make it at a high level and be good at it and do something original and thought provoking, you know, and inspired. And so as a creative, as a person who designs and does stuff like that every day for my full-time job and as a worship pastor and just as one of those creative thinkers, like do good inspired art. Don't be copycat, and especially if it's going to be hot garbage. Like, cause then like,
Well, and like I always say, you don't have to have Jesus in something for it to be spiritual. And I just remember when I was young, Lionel Richie had a hit song, "You're Once, Twice, Three Times a Lady." Some older people might remember that. And somebody in our church changed that to "Once, Twice, Three Times a Savior," and made it as a love song to Jesus. Yeah.
Well,
I wish I had video of that.
There's so many worship songs though that if you just change God or Jesus to baby or babe, it's like it just seamlessly becomes a romantic song.
That's the reason that I like, especially some of the more in-depth worship stuff, is like I can't just swap out the name of my wife and the name of Jesus,
Right.
and like, you know, like I mean, it. Yeah, I think good worship music has depth about the character of God and who Jesus is, right? That are not going to be accurate of my relationships. So that's the reason, like in the mid 2000s, when we're singing songs like "Your Love Is Extravagant," which is the most cringy worship song in the history of ever.
Your love. Yeah.
Well, but
No,
think about
indescribable to me. I hate indescribable.
but "Your Love Is Extravagant." We're here in our secret place.
Ooh.
Remember, like that whole thing? It was like the lyrics to
True.
that song are just straight up sketch.
Beacher
About
just
the-
reminded me, you know, the New Wine song? I don't know if that's
Oh,
Bethel,
yeah.
where it's like, "You're making new wine out of me." Well, the bridge of that's like, "I lay down my old flames." I can never not think of exes. Like, I hate that
Yeah.
line. I lay down my old flames. I'm like, and I'm gonna date someone new.
What about what was the one that heaven meets earth with a sloppy wet kiss?
Oh, but see, okay, but "Sloppy Wet Kiss" is the better line for that song.
True.
How
It's true. People
how he loves. I always think that's funny that every time we play that for church, I'll be like, "All right, let's run through How He Loves," and my guitarist is always like, "Well, what about Todd? You know, or like, what about Bill? Bill loves us too. It's not just Howie that loves us so."
Yeah.
But yeah, how he loves. But yeah, no, the unforeseen kiss feels a little bit questionable.
Yeah, that's like, where's consent?
Yeah,
Are we doing
right. Yeah,
consent here?
no,
Unforeseen?
sloppy wet. Sloppy wet's consensual. You know
Yeah,
what I'm
he's a little
saying?
wet.
It's just, oh my god.
Hey, have you ever read Song of Solomon before?
Yeah.
Come on, it's in there. It's in the Bible.
Oh my gosh. Okay, real quick. My least favorite worship song of all time. Like, I hate this song. Hate it. I've always hated it, even before I deconstructed. "I Am a Friend of God."
I am a
Does anyone else
friend
hate
of
that
God.
Oh God, yes.
I
I
hate
am a
that
friend
song.
of God.
That is a K all the way. K love hit all
Yeah.
the way.
I like, it's just so cringe. Like,
Ugh.
you know, like, have some reverence. Like, we're like, he's my best friend.
Yeah, no, that song's terrible. Plus, it has like no depth. It has no like depth at all to it. But yeah, here's the line I was searching
But
for.
people
earlier.
can jump up and down to it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
There's better songs for that now. Here's the line I was trying to think of earlier about "Your love is extravagant. Your friendship, it is intimate. I feel like moving to the rhythm of your grace." Here's the best line. "Your fragrance is intoxicating in our secret place."
Oh,
That is a worship
the love
song
affair.
we sang in church. Churches across the country said, "Your fragrance is intoxicating in our secret place."
Ugh. Yeah.
I don't even know what to say.
I feel like someone that, well, maybe I shouldn't say this.
Is this why we have so many former worship leaders who are now like becoming non-Christians?
Here's my thing. Part of me wonders if some people that were in the closet who couldn't like outwardly express some of these things wrote their secret desires in a form of a worship song. Just called it a worship song, and it was like their way to like get it out there without getting it out there.
Devin says we're writing the explicit line for sure right now.
Well, I used to like worship music, and I listened to a podcast called Bad Christians, and it's two former worship guys who you know were, I guess, fairly famous as a worship team. Who one of them says not a Christian, whatever, and they just go off on how terrible worship music is and explain why as musicians it's terrible music, and so they've kind of ruined it for me.
Yeah.
Basically, like it's 3 chords, they say, which I don't even know what a chord is, but
Most of the time it's 4.
4. Okay.
But somebody asked if there was a worship song right now that does have depth. So I know we're running late, but I will share one that I actually really like right now, if that's okay with you guys.
Yeah.
So As You Find Me by Hillsong United is a really, really strong song, especially for people who are in deconstruction or reconstruction, and just kind of trying to navigate faith or difficult circumstances in life. But there's some really great lines in there. It says, I've been strong and I've been broken within a moment. I've been faithful and I've been reckless at every bend. I've held everything together and watched it shatter. I've stood tall and crumbled in the same breath. But I was found before I was lost. I was yours before I was not. You've got grace to spare for all my mistakes. And that part just wrecks me. And, there's a bridge to that song that says, if you want my heart, I won't second guess. 'Cause I need your love more than anything. Now I know that one could probably be, one of those that we're talking about or
cringy,
whatever.
Right?
But just the way it comes out musically is really good. But yeah, there's just some really strong lyrics in that. Who am I to think your glory needs my praises? But if this borrowed breath is yours, Lord, take it all. You're faithful and you are gracious, and I'm just grateful to think you don't need a single thing, but still you want my heart.
You know what, though? I mean, I know I'm in a weird place in life, in all of these things, but I saw somebody post something that I think 5 years ago today, Prince died. And I don't know if that's true or not. I haven't fact checked that, but it caused me to go listen to some music from Prince. And as I sit and think about music that God loves, Prince, somewhere I read once he could play 19 musical instruments and he never took a lesson. He just knew how to play musical instruments. And I think God created that guy. He was born with this gift, and his music is amazing. And yes, Christians would talk about its sexuality or something, but I was just listening to his music today thinking God has to be pleased with excellence and creativity and ability to make that. And yes, sometimes hard roads make people go down bad roads with things, but still the excellence and genius and beauty of it. And even the songs I find to use on videos on TikTok, I'm like, isn't this amazing that people have these gifts? And I can find God in that, even if Jesus' name is not in the song.
And I want to just give one shout out to a song real quick too, that this song actually has the F word in it if you don't listen to the explicit song, but it's a worship song. And it's called A Prayer by Cake's Kaleidoscope.
Yeah.
Have you heard it?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's like to me, it's like the perfect song to listen to when I just feel, I think it's actually a great song for like the deconstructing and the confusion and just the wandering of like, where do we go from here with the frustrations with the church and everything. It's just kind of a laying it on the line kind of bear song. And that song really is very moving for me.
Cool.
Somebody
just give me some Carmen. That's what I need. Give me some
Carmen.
God.
Speaking of people who have gone off the cliff, right wingers.
Yeah.
He
man.
died though.
Yeah, he
did
passed.
he die?
He passed away.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't even hear that.
Don't speak ill of the dead.
Yeah. When you said, yeah, that's. I used to jam out to the Carmen though. I'm not gonna lie.
I was a big DC Talk guy.
DC Talk. I still love me some DC Talk. Not so much.
They were pretty
Michael
ahead of
Tate,
their
though.
time. Yeah, he's changed quite a bit.
Kevin Max though is amazing. I still love him, and Toby Max still actually.
Yeah.
Especially Kevin Max.
So Lexi asked about reckless love, and then so I just asked in the chat, like, as in depth or in general. She says both, personally, I like the song and its depth. Also, the actual music, I actually really like it a ton. And I know there was some controversy around it with the word reckless in reference to God's love, but kind of a crazy. And I'll keep this super short, but that song, I hadn't even really heard it because this is going to sound bad as a worship pastor. I don't listen to a ton of worship music. I'm kind of more of I'm definitely a hip hop head for sure. And I like folk kind of style music a lot. So like Need to Breathe is kind of my jam a little bit. But I had not heard this song or the controversy around that song, especially like in like evangelical, like conservative circles. And then all of a sudden a friend of mine who had gone through a lot of tragedy, actually spoke to this song, and I was like, man, I guess like he just posted on it about Facebook, and I was like, man, I didn't even know this was a thing. Like, but all my friends who were like Reformed Calvinists, they were like, this song is terrible. God can never be reckless because he's sovereign. And I was like, man, I'm going to get back to this song at some point. And the first time I ever heard the song was when my wife and I were praying through whether or not we were going to adopt our 3 younger kids. And I remember that song being the anthem for my season as we went through that chaos. And I remember thinking, I love these kids so passionately, but this feels out of control to me. I know I'm doing the right thing. I know they need this home. I know they need us, but this feels out of control. And it just gave me better perspective on God's love for me and how him reaching out to me and connecting with me and sending his son to show me how to live, that seems reckless and out of control. And so to our human eye, God's love seems reckless. And that was powerful for me, and a lot for me. And
that's awesome.
And it mattered because it helped us through a lot of really craziness, in that season. And so anyway, so Lexi,
I love what I love on that too is, Jesus told the story of the lost son, parable of the lost son. You talk about, reckless is that dad in that story,
yes,
who represents God. One thing people miss, like in the story, of course, the kid took his inheritance before his dad was dead. And that not only injured the family, but the whole village. Like everybody's agriculture life was intertwined with one another. So the dad not only would have to welcome him back into their household, but into the village and protect the kid from the village. And then it says he puts the ring on his finger, and the ring meant that you were in charge of the checkbook of the household. He was given full rights of the household back. And so that is a reckless dad that says, okay, you took half of everything I have. I'm going to have to protect you from everybody here. And I'm going to give you full rights to the checkbook again, coming back in. So I think God's love is reckless. At least Jesus told us so.
Even I think the life of Jesus was reckless to society, hanging out with prostitutes and tax collectors and all of these people that, religious people like, oh, no, we don't hang around with those people. Like he was recklessly inclusive of people that were typically excluded from society.
Recklessly inclusive, and the fact that God would even give us the grace of Jesus in the first place shows God's recklessness, and or to what is to us appears to be reckless. And so it's I think that helps define a lot of my faith journey right now. It's helped define a lot of my fatherhood journey for sure. And it helps me understand who God is even better. And so, it's a good song.
I made some people very unhappy on Easter week by saying that the woman who cleaned Jesus' feet with her tears and her hair, that was an erotic act she was doing. Which made people very, very unhappy, by the way. But And Jesus accepted what she was doing as worship. But for a woman to be at the feet of a man, to take her hair down, a woman never took their hair down in that culture except in the bedroom with her husband. Jesus was reckless, and everybody in the house was offended that this was happening. And he said, now this is worship, and she's going to be remembered for all of history for doing this when you guys won't be. So it is a reckless love that we get from heaven. And things that don't look like worship to good people are accepted as worship when it comes from the heart of people. And God will say, yep, that's worship. And I'm going to remember that forever. And I think that's a beautiful thing.
Yep.
I agree.
Well, all right, y'all. We definitely went way over time and added a whole nother topic tonight. So that was fun. And thanks to our folks who are commenting on YouTube. If you're listening on the podcast, you can join the conversation every single Wednesday night, 9 Eastern, 8 Central, 6 Pacific. Come join us live on YouTube. That is at Evangelicalish on YouTube and TikTok. Hey, subscribe.
Yes.
And turn the notifications on so you don't forget to join us each and every single week. And we're inching towards 1,000 subscribers on YouTube, and I think we're at 14,000 maybe, or 13 something on TikTok. So pretty awesome. And so yeah, we're super grateful for you guys, this family and this community that is so awesome to be a part of. And so anyway.
And now that the show is over, go watch my preview on TikTok.
Yes, now that it's over. And go hit the like. Go share that out. So awesome. Well, for Paul and April, I'm Jeremy. And we just want to remind you guys always, love God, people passionately, no strings attached. And we will be back next week. See you then.